Okay, so today we're going to learn how to calculate an empirical formula. An empirical formula is essentially the reverse of a percentage composition. So whereas before we were taking the amount of the substance, such as sugar in a candy bar, and calculating what percent it was of the whole, this time we're going to take the percentages and find out the ratios of the elements in the whole. So I have a compound that's composed of 3 elements: carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. So I've got carbon, I've got hydrogen, and I've got oxygen. All right. Now, 38.7% of this compound, there we go, is made up of carbon. 9.75 is made up of hydrogen. 9.75% is made up of hydrogen. Now, it doesn't matter if you get given percentages or masses, these calculations are done in exactly the same way. And finally, I've got 51.55% of oxygen. Now, if I add up each of these percentages, I'm going to get to 100. So know that I'm not missing any elements. So the first step is I divide each by the mass of 1 mole of the element. So I'm divided by 12 for carbon, by 1 for hydrogen, and by 16 for oxygen. Now, this is where using rounded numbers really helps, because I don't have to do anything for my division for hydrogen, because every time I divide a number by 1, I get the same number again. All right. Now, if I divide 38.7 by 12, I'm going to get 3.22. 3.22. And if I divide 51.55 by 16, I'm going to get, I should get 3.22 again, but let's just double check that. 51.55 divided by 16. I get 3.22 again. So I've got 3.22. Now the next step here is to divide by the smallest number. So my smallest number from each of these steps is 3.22. So I'm going to divide by 3.22. And I should, for the most part, when I do this step, get whole numbers. So I've got 1 here, got 1 here, and this is essentially 3 here. So this means that I can now I can now write out the formula, empirical formula for my compound. So I have 1 carbon, I have 3 hydrogens, and I have 1 oxygen. This is the empirical formula for the compound. It's not the actual formula. That's called the molecular formula. But this is the smallest whole number ratio of the atoms to each other. All right. Review this information. You're given a handout. Review it. Make sure you understand what's happening. And then go and try the practice questions.